They went to several different institutes to try and figure out what would be the right interventions to take care of. She's sitting and running around, and of course, she would have her own gait, her own way of walking, talking, and people would stare and just kind of get uncomfortable around her or around us as a family. Kids definitely in playgrounds would say, "Oh, she's a monkey," or "ये देखो बंदर दिख रही है." Hi, my name is Madhavi Gupta, and I'm a proud sibling of Nimmi Gautam, who has Down syndrome. We both sisters were actually born in Vienna, Austria. Now, you would imagine that in a developed country like Austria, Down syndrome, of course, there was a lot of awareness, and the doctors actually diagnosed her immediately and told my father that she's got Down syndrome. Of course, the shocking part was that the doctor who delivered my sister told my dad that you should get her institutionalized because she's retarded. Now, the word retarded, which is a word that we do not use today, was medically accepted then. And in fact, in our Indian, well, I wouldn't say constitution, but a lot of institutes and organizations still continue to use the word retardation. He was pretty pragmatic about it, and we were in a state of shock, which is what my father says, because he felt, why would I want to keep my daughter away from my family, and why wouldn't I care about her? Of course, my father did not know anything at all about Down syndrome. My mother, who comes from a place called Jaipur, close by. She belongs to a fairly conservative family. Again, did not know anything about Down syndrome. Was in a state of shock. Having said that, they both were very clear that they will care for the child and will do the best that they can do as parents. Now, there's only a difference of 2 years between my sister and I. Of course, that also came with a lot of challenges. My mother had a very difficult time managing two kids in a foreign country with no help whatsoever. A 2-year-old, that's me, elder to Nimi, and I used to actually pine for my mother's attention. I used to be fairly jealous. In fact, I believe, and which is again what my parents say, that my jealousy sort of extended till about four-ish, perhaps. Early childhood is filled with memories around being around Nimmi, and I was very curious as a child. I didn't understand why, she was so slow, and she wouldn't talk, she wouldn't say anything, and I would continue to tease her, and that's what my mother says, and that's fairly it. And I know that from very early on, from the time that I can go back and really tap into my memories, what comes to me is that we really my parents really worked on normalizing the fact that there was no difference between any of us, and we are three siblings. And what that did to us as kids was that we didn't, other than the fact that, okay, she didn't respond or didn't communicate, we didn't really necessarily think that there was anything particularly wrong with her. So that's, I would say, a bit from my early childhood for my sister. We're talking about the 1980s. So my father's posted back to India for a very short duration of time. And then we were posted to Canada, Toronto. So in between the time that we had just come back from Austria to when we were ready to go to Toronto, we were in India, Delhi, and my mother struggled to actually find, and my dad also struggled to find a good school infrastructure, right, for my sister, where she could actually get developed, have the right interventions in time. And so we actually, thanks to my father's job with the forces as well, my sister was admitted to a Golden Jubilee school, and they have a special needs department, and a lot of the credit on the early intervention actually goes to that particular school, but also goes to the fact that my parents had they worked very hard in going to AIIMS. They went to several different institutes to try and figure out what would be the right interventions to take care of Nimi, right? So developmentally, she had slower milestones. Now, while that's an accepted lifespan for a child with Down syndrome or an individual with Down syndrome, there are therapies, there are definitely interventions that are necessary to make sure that the child reaches the capacity that he or she is capable of. And that's really the focus area that my parents had when they started this journey. Um, Knowledge was scarce. The only center of knowledge, especially in Delhi, and again, we were fortunate, is actually AIIMS. So, All India Institute is where my parents used to go and spend time at the genetics unit. And at that time, there was a gentleman by the name of Professor I.C. Verma, who headed the genetics department. And through him and his team, my father and mother got a lot of guidance on how to work with Nimmi, and that really started our journey as a family with Nimi. At that time there was no concept of family counseling, so that is something that didn't really necessarily happen unless you went directly to them and asked specific questions as to what is it that we can do as a family. We were again fortunate that we had good doctors in our lives who guided my mother, they guided my father. And what really came out was that, one, normalize as much as possible, two, make sure that she is a part of all activities at home and outside. It doesn't matter what people are saying, what they do as they see a child like Nimi outside, but take her out. And that's really what helped my sister when it came to integrating with the mainstream community. Having said that, as we started growing up, and of course, my younger brother, my sister were in Golden Jubilee while I was in a school called Kendriya Vidyalaya. And I can tell you that there were times when, I would have friends over at home and they would meet my sister and they would stare at her, or we would go as a family and have picnics, go to India Gate. A lovely winter morning, let's all go for a picnic. And we'll go there, and a whole bunch of people, if she's sitting and running around, and of course, she would have her own gait, her own way of walking, talking. And people would stare and just kind of get uncomfortable around her or around us as a family. And I actually grew up fairly angry as a child, and what that really means, and let me define that, is that I did not appreciate the fact that people were staring. I did not appreciate the fact that my I would even meet relatives who would actually tell my mother certain things like तुमने पाप किया होगा जिसकी वजह से तुम्हारा ऐसा बच्चा हुआ. Of course, it's today we all know it's lack of knowledge which drives a behavior like this. But imagine, I was what, 6, 7 years old, to hear stuff which don't even make sense. Not that I understand what pap is or what punya is, but as a 6-year-old, hearing somebody tell my mother that it's your fault, I knew that emotion, that it is not correct. That this person is telling my mother that it is her fault that Nimmi is a child the way she is. And I did not like that. The same way, I found how kids or adults also, kids definitely in playgrounds would say, oh, she's a monkey, or ye dekho bandar dikh rahi hai. And I know that I've had multiple fights because I just couldn't digest that. I mean, who wants to hear such things about your family members? And the bullying that happens, right? Here's a vulnerable child who is uh, slightly slower, perhaps, or little different in terms of how she looks and how people treat you just because you look different. And so, very early on, that anger I was able to channelize. Yes, while did I have a little bit of a fight with my friends? Did I have a fight with some, strangers or external individuals? Sure. But fact is, what it did is that very early on, I was able to appreciate the importance of family, the importance of being together, the importance of actually spreading awareness. Not that I understood what that really meant, but I know that I was very proud of my sister, and I would go around telling people, here, look, this is my sister Nimi, and she is so good at drawing. So I kind of, and I think here my mother played a massive role because she always taught my brother and I that see what all she can do. She colors beautifully. She has a great sense of color. So she chooses the right combinations instinctively. She's very meticulous. Whatever that you do very early on, because her motor skills were compromised, the doctors had also recommended. So my mother used to give her methi, palak, uh, बथुआ का साग कि उसको छाटो. So the process of weaning off those leaves from the stem, it helped her with motor skill. But what it also showed us in reality was how meticulous she was. If it was me, I would actually just take a whole bunch and twist it and break off the roots, right? And that's it, I'm done. But no, she would actually take out every single stem, take out every single patta there was on the methi or the palak or the bhatua, and very, very carefully put it in a small bunch. Now, that means that she has a great sense of focus. She does not get distracted. She does not cheat. Now, that is something that comes very easily to people like us. That, okay, can I skip the line? Can I skip a particular step in a process? Now, that is her strength, and that is how we grew up, focusing on what she can do and not on what she was not being able to do. And so that's how our childhood shaped up, and her interventions took her to the level to which uh, could get her to the next level. And at this point, I would say, the second phase of our education and exposure started. So, starting with the second phase, my father got posted to Toronto. And this is the time when I had just entered my what I would call the uh, I would say about fifth grade or so. And my sister was again integrated into the special ed or the special education section of the Canadian public school. The beauty of the school system there was that Nimi got a lot of, I would say, alternate therapies and alternate ways of learning. So she actually picked up a lot of language skills, a lot of integrated community, interpersonal skills over there. My mother was able to focus on herself. Her well-being was actually in a better space there because she was away from her extended family. She was focusing more on the interventions, and the school system was actually taking more than what was happening in India, which meant that they took on interventions that made sense for her abilities. With that, of course, again, we moved back. Then we went to a place called Myanmar, then came back again. And fast forward, we are in a situation where my sister's finished her education, so called education, in the sense that till the time she was 18, she had to be in a school system. But then after 18, the schools, actually, even the special needs spaces, would actually ask our parents to say, okay, what next? Now, what next meant for her was to go to a organization called Muskan, which is based out of Vasant Kunj, and she started being a part of one of their work centers. Um, Now, the thing is, I want to touch upon certain aspects of challenges that a family actually experience. Biggest challenge for her was the fact that transportation and safety. So, from where my parents lived to where the organization was, there's a transportation that has to take her there. Now, my parents were much younger, and my mother, of course, during this time had already finished her special education. She had started volunteering in AIIMS as a parent counselor herself, and used to work on disability certificates, stuff like that. And so she would accompany my sister. But as they grew older, the security challenges happened, right? So you can't leave her with a driver that you go and take her. So that is a challenge that every single family experiences in India or anywhere in the world, which is the safety and security of their child. Second is, as I passed through my college and my brother did and all of that. So what next? Started working, and of course, I found a spouse. I have a love marriage, and the first thing that I told my boyfriend then was that if we are going to get married, you need to accept my sister, because if you don't accept my sister, this relationship is not going anywhere. I've been, again, I think overall in my life, I've been fortunate that I found a partner who absolutely agreed with me and supported my sister and my family, and therefore we got married. Um, Over a period of time, my youngest brother also got married, but there was a time, about a year, where we spent looking for a spouse for him through Bharat Matrimonial and whatever the platforms are where you find a match. And every time I would tell the family upfront that I have a sister with Down syndrome. Of course, I use this opportunity as a awareness generating process for me, because for me it's good as many people as you can get who understand what Down syndrome is or what intellectual disability is all about. But the first thing was, oh, your brother is very handsome, but, and that but meant that, we're not comfortable with really pursuing this relationship because you have a member who's got a disability. And that's really where we thoroughly appreciated the fact that what does ostracization mean? To get ostracized, uh, fact of the matter is that we all understand that at some point in time we are going to get progressive disability. But when you are bringing two individuals together in a marriage, of course, we don't think like that, right? And people didn't really want to have a relationship then. Of course, over a period of time, we found the right partner and they're happily married. It's already been 10 years. And we have been fairly lucky, again, fortunate that we have a very cohesive family. But the learnings, or the key learnings from the journey of relationships and community integration, is that until unless you don't accept your own member of your family, and until unless you are not comfortable not only talking about your member with disability, but also the fact that you're looking at capacity building and only focusing on that, and weaning out and ignoring what the community at large says about your child just because they're not aware. Of course, there's a very important aspect of the ostracization that happened, is that my mother got diagnosed with clinical depression, and that clinical depression then got converted into multiple health related issues, which are called psychosomatic I would say diseases or conditions that get developed over a period of time. And today she's bedridden with Parkinson's. And so, a key takeaway, and I would like to share this personally with the world out there: please, please be very careful of the mothers, be very careful of the fathers, people who are the primary caregivers. They need a lot of support, and a lot of the struggles that we find psychologically building up over a period of time, they get converted into physical ailments. And if you want to avoid that, our families need to be very close to each other. So this is something that I definitely wanted to share at this stage. 2017, I incorporated my organization with a brand called In for the Cause. Registered name is Awareness for Inclusion Foundation, where we focus on spreading awareness on 21 kind of disabilities according to the Disability Act of 2016. So I've worked very closely with multiple organizations: Microsoft, Pepsi, HT Media, Dell, you name it. And we have worked with big organizations on spreading awareness. We focus on experiential workshops. We look at disability from a perspective of how it would be if what are the accommodations that organizations need to make, what are the reasonable accommodations that can get created even in the workspace that you can offer an individual with disability to step in. I would like to thank the entire team of Josh Talks for having me over here. My small bit to your beautiful team is that keep doing what you do, and there's nothing like putting these awesome stories out there. Um, just a last piece of something that I would like to leave behind is that my mother, who is on the bed right now with Parkinson's. Now, Parkinson's is a condition that actually today is coming as early as a 20-year-old person. What we used to think was for old people. And all that she says is that टेक केयर ऑफ निम्मी, मेरे जाने के बाद में भी उसका ध्यान रखना, उनको आज तक भी, जबकि उन्होंने इस परिवार को इतनी खूबसूरती से जोड़ के रखा है और बड़ा किया है, उनको अभी भी ऐसा लगता है कि अगर मैं चली गई तो मेरे बाद क्या होगा। और ये दुख और ये जो एक पीड़ा है, वो हर एक परिवार जिसके अंदर एक बच्चा है जिसको या तो इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी है या ऑटिज्म है या कुछ ऐसी विकलांगता है जिसकी वजह से वो कमज़ोर है, उसके माँ या बाप के अंदर ये पीड़ा ज़रूर रहती है। तो आप सबसे आप गुज़ारिश है, आई वुड से दैट कीप डूइंग व्हाट यू डू, बिकॉज़ with every panel or every story that you put out there, you inspire others to be more accepting for a community that is the largest minority in the world today. So thank you for having me.
Hello everyone. I'm so happy that Josh Talks has brought this channel out where we can hear the stories of the incredible mothers and fathers of autistic children. I had somebody in my own family who was autistic. If you are the parent of a young child who has autism, please share your information with Josh Talks in the form below. This will help Josh Talks better understand the problems that you face and the content that needs to be created. Your information will be kept confidential. Only a few members of the team will have access to this data who will call you to have a short conversation with you.